And you're live.
Good morning, everybody. For the record, I'm Fred Sussman, Chair of the Financial Advisory Commission. We're here today for our Commission's March 13th, 2028 regular meeting. We have four commissioners present, me, Frank Brown, Patrick Bannon, and Ed Meehan. Jim Cardillo emailed me and told me a couple days ago that he has an unavoidable commitment and will not be able to attend. We also have with us Alderman Arnett, Jody Dickinson, Finance Director for what I think may be one of her last meetings with us, Kim Moronsky from Finance Department, and I think this may be Kim's last meeting with us. And then her replacement, Kat Valiente, who this is Kat's first meeting, and she has big shoes to fill from Kim. And Kim, thank you very, very much for all the very good service and prompt attention you've given to the commission over the last 2 years. I greatly appreciate it and appreciate your support. Thank you very much, and wish you well. I've seen that City Attorney Lyles has joined us. Good morning, Mr. City Attorney. And Madeline Worrell from City of Annapolis TV is our tech person today. Madeline, hi. Good morning. Okay, I sent out an agenda a couple of days ago. Any corrections or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion from a commission member to approve the agenda as submitted.
I motion that the agenda be approved as submitted.
Who is that?
Frank.
Frank Brown, seconded by Ed Meehan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye or raising your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is approved. I sent out some minutes from our January 9th, 2026 meeting that Kim prepared. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the minutes of commission meeting from January 9th, 2025. Motion made by Ed Meehan, seconded by Patrick Bannon. And any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye or raising your right hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved as presented. First, I'll go to the reports. Finance Department. Madam exiting Finance Director, Jody Dickinson. And I understand that the City Council has approved your the recommendation and nomination of Brittany Moran, currently town of Chesapeake Beach, to be the new City Finance Director. So you're up, Jody, for one of the last times, I assume. And thank you for all the support.
This should be my last report to your body. And I was going to say that Brittany was approved on Monday evening. Brittany Moran, she's the current treasurer of Chesapeake Beach, and we're very glad she's coming on board and anxious to get her here. Her first day is supposed to be March 27th. That's a week and a half away, and I'll be stepping down on that day and staying in a contractual role for the city as needed on projects and or getting her transitioned into the new role. I'm sure it's going to be a change from Chesapeake Beach, and she'll have other things she's got to pick up on. So I think it's good to stay around. Plus, I do want to write more down than is written down right now. So to create some kind of a policy / procedural manual for everything that we deal with in finance. And the biggest thing we're working on to get out the door is the ACFR. We're almost done. We've got a final draft now that the auditors have just pulled together. We've been going back and forth with that draft for a month now. And it's very close to final. So I expect we'll have final annual comprehensive financial report within a week or so. Besides that, the budget team is very busy. They're putting together the final numbers for the mayor's proposed budget. That'll go before the council, the second Monday in April. And basically, we have still an assistant finance director position that we're filling. And I'm also trying to get another contractual person on the AP staff. It's extra help there, but as you know, we can use, there's a couple areas there in the finance department operations that an extra set of hands is always helpful. So we try to fund that if we can, if we've got enough budget. That's it. The assistant finance director position, it has been listed for a while. I've been looking at resumes lately, and I plan to give a short list to Brittany when she comes on board, because she expressed the desire to play a role in who's number 2. So I'm trying to line up what I think are the better candidates from the applicants, and we'll have her look at them and we can set up some interviews.
Thank you, Jody. I have a question. You said that you're hoping to be finishing up the financial report with the auditor soon. Is there anything in the report that should alarm us or alarm the public?
So,
Any
yeah.
issue?
Not from the financial results of 24. We've had a hard time pulling it together, only because without the assistant finance director there, who played a significant role in that for the last 2 or 3 years, we were trying to do it pick up the pieces and spread it amongst fewer staff people. So it took a while back and forth. No, I haven't seen all the reports. For instance, I haven't seen a draft of a management letter, a report on internal control, so I can't tell you that those are good. The single audit has been drafted and is drafted without exceptions, without findings, so that I know. The financial results of the general fund in 24 were strong, as they have been for the last few years, so that's good. And nothing alarming within the financial statements themselves, no. So.
Okay, thank you. I have another question for you, which I'll hold for a sec. Anybody have any questions for Jody on what she's reported thus far? No? Jody, I asked you this question, I think the last meeting, and I think what you told me, it has to do with impending doom, financial doom in the world, and country and the state, et cetera, et cetera. Are you all, when I say you, the administration, you, finance director, doing anything to anticipate financial problems and revenue shortfalls from what's going on financially?
I know that the only thing that I reported last time that we've had is a few of our OEM grants came in this year lower than what we had budgeted. So that's going to be a bit of a squeeze on the OEM budget this year. I don't know. I think they're able to do it. They've got some turnover this year, which was some savings for them. So that will probably assist. The one thing we're watching is the state budget as they try to close this gap they have on their own budget. We haven't heard anything for certain there, but we do know from the federal level, we've gotten a couple of notifications about things being delayed, I guess. And I can't speak to them individually because I'm not in the loop on that. But so we're just kind of all, holding our breath, waiting to see what, if anything, happens to some of the grants we're trying to get for construction and that type of thing, and whether or not they're going to come through.
Well, are you working on any big picture contingency plans for significant revenue shortfalls?
Not at this time, because at this time, we haven't heard anything from the state departments as to whether or not, if we're going to be impacted or not, on which fronts. A lot of our operating monies that we get from the state are for transportation, and I believe we already know what that is going to be. Again, remember they froze that at a flat level last year. Transportation expects that to come in this year. I know that, I'm sorry, for 26, and I do, the other thing that would be a major issue is, the state aid for police protection, but I haven't heard that that's affected at all either. So those are two of the major operational monies that we get.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions of Jody on my follow-up there? No, Jody, thank you very much. And again, on behalf of the commission, thank you so much for all the service you've given us and you've given the city. I think that we're in a much stronger and better position now because of your financial leadership than we were many years ago. So thank you very much. I'll miss you.
Thank you.
Okay. City manager, nobody from the city manager's office. Anybody have a report from the city manager's office? No, we'll move on.
I do not. I don't know who was coming on, who was due to come on this morning, but
Well, I didn't hear from Mike, and Vicky said she couldn't come, so I
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily anticipating or expecting somebody, but just in case there was, want to give an opportunity.
yeah, and the mayor and the city manager's offices are the ones that are hearing more directly from the state on the threats of those. And as we pull together the budget, if we found out something was not, not going to present itself like we thought, we'd have to come up with a plan B on the budget.
I see, I mentioned Jim Cardillo is not here. So he's not here to give a report on the audit committee. Anybody else have anything to tell us from the audit committee? Alderman Arnett.
Yes, it's a very easy report. We did not meet last month.
Wow, that's very impressive. Thank you for that great report. Do you anticipate meeting this next month?
Yes.
And speaking of not meeting, the commission will meet certainly normally in the month of April, particularly because it'll be in the middle of budget season. I am expecting to be away out of the country from about May 7th through May 22nd or so. So our second in command, Jim Cardillo, vice chair, will assume role and responsibility for me during that period of time. So just want to forewarn you. Jody, you told us about new city finance director, Brittany Moran. I know of Brittany from Chesapeake Beach. I'm doing a little bit of work down there for Chesapeake Beach, and she has come into the picture a couple of times. So from what I know of her from my working down there, I think she'll be a good addition. Spending affordability. I think we're making progress on that. This is something that Alderman Arnett has been pushing for quite a while, advocating that the city of Annapolis create some sort of spending affordability and mechanism for the budget process. And he has taken the initiative of working with city staff to create an ordinance that would assign to the FAC the responsibility for overseeing the spending affordability function. I sent you a few days ago a draft ordinance that he's been working on, and yesterday I sent you a further revised, probably version 3 or 4 or 8. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I think there's a lot of work been going into that. It's fairly complex, and I asked Alderman Arnett if he would be so kind to walk us through it and give us his thoughts. I'm not expecting Pat Mack to take any action today on this, nor has it been introduced to the city council yet, and it may undergo further revision, but I'd like to have a presentation from Alderman Arnett about what this ordinance is, does, and timetables. So Alderman Arnett, floor is yours, and thank you very, very much for the hard work you put into this.
Well, thank you. And I wish I had completed this work a year ago. It would be very interesting to see what the advisors on this would be giving us right now in this period of dramatic change. The state and the county and many other municipalities have this function, all counties that I know of in Maryland. And essentially it's going to outside vendor or vendors to get their economic forecast for the revenue outlook for the entity that's purchasing those services. It's typically 5 years, and the vendor that I'm most familiar with is run out of Towson University. They have a group of 5 panelists that each come up with their own forecast, including the economics department at Salisbury University, University of Maryland, the SAGE group, who do a lot of work in this area, and 3 other vendors. And the purpose of the umbrella organization at Towson is to pull together the 5 different forecasts, come up with a consensus opinion, and make recommendations to the government entity about what they see in the future in terms of revenue. Again, the body I'm most familiar with is the Towson University people that do this for the state of Maryland and also for Anne Arundel County. Our revenue composition has a different weight. We're most heavily dependent on property taxes, but that should be easily for us to accommodate. We have our assessments that go for 3 years. They'll have to look beyond that. Right now, I think they'll be looking at impacts on reduction of grants to bodies that are building affordable housing, and so impact on the housing market. Some of the things that are going on currently could actually affect real estate values, but that would be up for them to do. But the value of this is to have outside bodies that look at what they see as the future for our revenue sources. And that's an important determination to marry up with what we see as our spending needs. Our spending is heavily predicated on salaries and benefits, and those are heavily predicated on union contracts, and those are also contracted for a number of years out. So I think that marrying this outside forecast for 5 years with what we can fairly accurately predict for our spending, even though grants may be shaky this year, they're a relatively small portion of our revenue, thankfully. And but I think this is also something that can be used when we negotiate with the unions and so forth. And I would assume the results of this spending affordability recommendations would be shared with with everyone in the city, so the negotiating bodies as well. As to the particulars of the ordinance itself, I followed heavily what I saw the county doing and also Queen Anne County doing. So when you look at page 3 of the ordinance, which is going to go into Title II, 48-130, it fairly quickly defines the fact is the city entity that would be responsible for analyzing the report and passing it on to the city. There would need to be a contract with whatever vendor, and there are a few there other than the Towson University that are available. And when we get into the nuts and bolts of acquisition, we can talk about that. I've been trying to get together with Chris Trombauer at the county because I'd like to see if there's a willingness to let us piggyback on their contract. But that's down the road. We need to pass the ordinance and the first. And it looks at things like growth and the stability of the local economy. These are all at the bottom of page 3. Changes in the assessment base, which is done by the state. Any changes to taxing capacity, which would be basically our tax rate, and estimating the revenues from other sources like grants and so on. And these are the things, services that are generally provided by the Towson University vendor, and I assume any other vendor. And then it talks about processes, about rendering the report to the city manager, the finance director, and the city council. So there's detail here, but that's the essential elements of it. And I see Director Dickinson has her hand up.
Yes, where is she? There she is, playing musical squares here.
I'm sorry, yeah, I think when you
That's
click your,
okay, not you, it's just the system.
in on my screen, it's not moving, so I just wanted to add that Jake and I had, and Jake is our budget manager, had a conversation with somebody from Resi. We got from them, he sent us the summary page of the report that they provide to the county. Now, this is a year or so old. And the 5 points, I think that aldermen are not hit on all of them. The 5 things that are in the report that they give to the Spending Affordability Committee deal with personal income estimates and forecasts, just a couple years into the future. Forecast of the county's employment and population, employment tables that display the high wage and low wage industries, largest industries, and the fastest growing industries. Trends in the county's residential real estate market, which is something he mentioned, and discussion of the county's local economy. And when we had a conversation with the gentleman there, he was saying that if they do this for us, it would be along the same lines. And mostly they would be providing us the same information that they gave the county. And we asked about whether or not they could make it more specific to the city, because we have some differences with the county with how much we rely on tourism, etc., short-term rentals, that there's some trends going on here that may not be seen countywide as a whole. So he was going to look into it, get back, see how much, if they could dig in a little further on some of these things and get it isolated to city trends and get back to us. But what I wanted to make sure I added is that the price for these services is less than our procurement threshold for having to bid the work out. It's less than, in fact, he said that if they gave us what they give the county, they're going to charge us less than they charge the county anyways, because they've already pulled the information together. It's less than $5,000. It's something that could easily fit within a budget, within maybe even finance's budget, depending on how much they were charging. It's not that significant of an amount. And if we're probably looking at around $2,000 to $3,000 for their services. So we can contract with them without having to go out to bid or look at other groups. So if this is who we choose, we can go in that direction, and I will keep you all updated if Jake gets it, what they're saying about anything extra they can do for us as far as making the information more specific to the city.
Thank you, Jody. Question. shouldn't or whoever we're talking to about being the chosen consultant, shouldn't we make sure that whatever they're gonna provide us is consistent with what the ordinance requires the
Yes.
fact to present, to evaluate and present? to
Yeah, and at the time, the ordinance draft that I had had not been presented, so I was waiting for a more final draft of what it said. To make sure that what they've said here in this letter would, cover everything that's in the code language that we're adding. So that wasn't ready at the time, so that's still another step that we have to do. I said that when we had an ordinance drafted, I would send it to him so that he could make sure that they were addressing all of our needs.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Arnett, can you walk through your understanding of how the FAC plays a role in this process? I see it was on paper, but I'm not sure I fully understand it. And before you do that, just I think a little bit of a correction in page 2.48 110C, new language.
You're on page 2, you're looking at the red, what's in red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about funding requirements necessary for the commission to hire consultants. Well, commission doesn't hire anybody. So I think I probably want to say for the city to hire consultants.
Actually, this was put in from discussion at the FAC, where you were saying that you may need outside consulting help. This is any kind of consulting help. It doesn't necessarily pertain to the spending affordability model, but I took this from an earlier discussion with the FAC. As Director Dickinson indicated, the city would be doing the procurement. The FAC is set up as the spending affordability committee that is the committee in the county, the state, and the other municipalities. And so it is in Annapolis, that committee function would be subsumed by the FAC. But I don't, if you don't think there's any outside consulting, this is similar to what the, pardon me?
Wrong. We absolutely will need outside consultants. All I'm saying is this sounds, the way it's written, sounds like the commission is the body or the person or the entity that's hiring the consultants. All I'm suggesting is some minor wording changes for the city to engage consultants to so that the FAC can fulfill the spending affordability requirements, something like that.
That's fine. That's why it's coming. This has not been introduced. That's why it's coming to you for your review. So yeah, if you have, you were very helpful in suggesting other changes, and I see the city attorney had his hand up. He may have wanted to comment on this as well. This is not dissimilar from what the audit committee has in terms of we have an annual budget. That's a body that's somewhat different than this body in that it's composed of both council members and public members. But in any event, obviously, yeah, we want to get any wording changes, and certainly any wording changes that the city attorney would suggest to us before we introduce it. The less amendments we have to make after introduction, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, thank you. Did you have your hand up, city attorney?
I did. Yes, Mr. Chair, I was just going to comment briefly that this hasn't had a legal review yet. So the direction you are thinking of is probably something that Law is going to take a hard look at. In my review of it, this several changes in the language have to be done. Placement of things in the text would be appropriate.
Okay,
I
good.
was not aware that it had not been reviewed by the Office
Yeah.
of Law.
No, I
assumed-
haven't seen this before.
Huh. Well, that's interesting. All right. Well, certainly we need that.
I appreciate that, Mike. So Alderman Arnett, explain if you can, how you envision this system working on an annual basis, the timetables. I see that in this draft, there's a change from the last one. The last one said the first report would be due, I forget what year it was, a year further out, and that is not in this draft.
Right. So actually it's in the draft, but it's on the last page, page 4, under further establish and ordain the Financial Advisory Commission is required to submit reports on spending affordability beginning in 2026.
No, that's the previous draft. That's not the one that was sent out yesterday. I didn't have a problem with the language before, and then I saw it was missing on this one.
All right, I may not have the latest version myself then. But obviously we're submitting this to the fact because my design is the fact be the body that serves as the Spending Affordability Commission. And so we want things in here that the fact is comfortable with. Obviously, we also want things in here that the Office of Law is comfortable with. So, but you cannot give a recommendation on spending affordability until we have a contract and a report that is specific to the city.
Right, okay. Mr. City Attorney, at what stage will your office get involved in reviewing this? After it's been introduced or before?
We usually get involved before it's introduced, but we kind of like the subject matter experts, the sponsor, to give all of the comments, changes that they're going to have, and then we'll review for legal sufficiency just prior to introduction.
Okay. All right, let me turn it over to fact members for any.
The director has her hand up.
Who?
The director, Jody.
Director, is she still on my screen? Yes, she is. There she is. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Every time I look, my musical squares keep moving around. So anyway, Madam Director,
You're on mute.
muted.
I wanted to comment that the date might have been removed on this last version because we're coming up into the 26 budget, so the first year we could possibly put this into effect would be 27. And I don't know that it's necessary to specify what year it starts, but just to outline what we expect of each of the role of the committee. And I wanted to elaborate that what this outside group gives us is a report on those 5 factors, but then the committee itself, whoever, and I don't know if we're going to call it a spending, I guess we're calling the fact, having a spending affordability function. There's quite a bit of evaluation of what's sent and then putting it down into terms of recommendations, and taking other things into consideration, like the amount of city debt, other expenses that the city has, into what we can afford to spend. The economic information coming from the group like Resi is, what it looks like from an economic perspective overall for the area. But it would be this group's responsibility to take that and put it into some specific recommendations.
And if I may, that is exactly why I thought the fact would be the right place for this to reside, because these are things you do in other functions when you review the budget, when you review the union contracts, all of those things. So it seemed to me to be very efficient to have the fact be the body where the spending affordability resided, along with all of your other advisory capacities for things financial.
Thank you for that clarification, Alderman. Jody, what role, you won't be around to be fulfilling this unless we bring you back onto contract. But what role do you envision the finance department having in this whole process?
The finance office would do the contracting process with Resi. But of course, that has to go through approvals, not just in finance, but it has to go through, contracts have to go through law and city manager, and the mayor signs the contract. So that all would be taken care of from the finance director's perspective. And then as far as just providing financial information to the commission on anything else you want to know as far as city spending, budget, etc. To feed information to you. And then if you had follow-up questions, if you were trying to create a recommendation and you were missing a piece of information, we'd try to fill that.
So the finance department, even though you're not mentioned in the ordinance, will still be a partner with the FAC in pulling this whole thing together.
I don't know if that's I don't know how the FAC is described within the code and whether or not it explains that it's a financial function and it involves coordination with the finance department. It may actually say that somewhere else.
I don't
This
think
is the code for the FAC, and it does specifically say that the FAC's recommendations will go to the city manager, the finance director, and the city council.
Yeah, the chair, I think Fred, you're saying that we play a role in gathering up the spending affordability recommendations, whether or not that has to be mentioned.
helping to understand what we're getting from the consultants. We have some pretty darn good people on the FAC, but I don't know that our bases of knowledge are as extensive as people with more experience.
What they're going to give you is a report, and the report is grouped into those 5 factors that I described, and it's going to tell you where they think the economy is going for the area that they're reporting on. And they may tell you housing is going to be this or that, and then you'll take that and say, well, then what does that mean as far as what we can afford to pay in additional property taxes, for instance? And although they may say properties are expected to grow a certain amount, you may not want to recommend that spending go lockstep with that amount, because you're going to have constituents pushing back. So there's that. Here's what we think the economy is going to do, and the recommendations related to that. I'm sorry, and the advice. I would say them projections. They're going to give you projections, and you take it and say, but what do we think the citizens in the city would be able to tolerate? So it's a lot of the deciding factors in the recommendations, taking the economic information and digesting it into specific recommendations, is going to be done by the FAC. The county has a separate committee, a spending affordability committee, but they had to create that because they don't have a financial advisory commission. So they don't have a comparable committee existing. So they created their own, and I'm sure I don't know what the background is of the people that sit on that committee.
Okay. Jody, I don't know what if anything you're hearing. We have 2 vacancies on the commission right now. We've had 2 for a while, and I've advocated that we try and fill those vacancies. And I know that I understand the mayor has 3 individuals who have submitted resumes and applications. I've met with 2 of them and shared my thoughts. The third one seem to be very, very, very well qualified. But does anybody know where this is in the process with the administration? Is anybody, where does it go from here? Three, three applications to fill two vacancies have been submitted with recommendations. And is it lost in a black hole?
The mayor would make a recommendation to the council and the council would approve. I didn't realize, I know we had one person that I had sent in who was
Right.
also applying for finance director. I don't know about the other two, but Hillary Raftovich, I believe, is the person that handles this. I'll call her. I didn't realize we had, other nominees, but that's actually good news.
Yeah, I met with the person you recommended, and I also met with another gentleman who seemed very, very well qualified, very interested. And then somebody told me that either the mayor solicited or an individual just submitted an application with a lot of municipal finance experience. So there are three very qualified people are there, ready, waiting, able. So if you, Alderman, could reach out to Hillary, see what the status is of that.
I will do that.
Thank you. Okay, commission members, questions about the, yes, Ed.
Yeah, thanks. So first, I'm very happy to see this is moving to fruition, and Ross and Jody and Michael and everybody. Thank you for all your efforts here. So I had two comments really. So first one, Fred, I think you've already really addressed the idea. I was expecting that the city, whether it's through the finance department or whatever, would retain the consultants necessary. And I think that's the better structure. So I think we've got that clarified rather than have the commission be directly responsible for hiring, overseeing, that creates a different approach that I think we're best off sticking with the normal city processes. But then the other thing, and I know I'm going to take us ever so slightly off topic, because I think the language that's in red and the references to the sport spending affordability and what would all be involved there all makes perfect sense, all good, all fine. I don't have really any additional comment on that. But I was wondering, since this is the time we're going to be proposing some changes in the city code concerning the fact, is now also the time to take up some of the discussion we've had about the first point under 2.48.110. So the duties, we've had some discussion about what is now in B1, review of collective bargaining agreements prior to execution. So I know I'm bringing up another topic, but we have had, discussions about at what time the fact should be involved, how best to carry out that role, questions of whether there should be an observer from the fact at collective bargaining agreements, not a participating representation, but an observer, that type of thing. So I'm wondering if we're going to be proposing an amendment to the city code, is now a time we should also take that up? Or am I now suggesting that we're going too far? And I don't want to hold the spending affordability issue up for that discussion. I just want to mention that I at least have not forgotten that we've talked about those matters.
Thank you, Ed. And in all candor, it was not the forefront of my mind. I do think that it raises a number of different issues from the spending affordability. And the broad topic is functions, responsibilities of the Financial Advisory Commission. But my sense personally is that not be dealt with in this ordinance. That I'd hate to see this get held up because of disagreements, disputes, this, that, the other thing about the role of the FAC in collective bargaining. If we want to tackle that, then I suggest we do that separately, and we can have that on our next agenda, for us to talk about as a group. And I'd ask FAC members to think about it. And maybe we just submit a reminder letter to the mayor and council, or I thought we had already submitted recommendations on that. Have we not, Ed? Alderman Arnett is shaking his head yes.
Right. I know that had come up and we had gone forward. I wasn't sure where the status was. And Fred, I agree with you. We don't want to overburden this, and maybe let's tackle one aspect of progress at a time. I see the wisdom in that. I just wanted to make sure we weren't forgetting about that, and that we could return to that at some point to take that to a next level as well.
Is this a collective bargaining year or not? No.
Next year,
So you said it.
So I have not forgotten this, but I do think it needs to be separate legislation. The administration, and I understand why. When I drafted along with Dick Israel the original FAC, it was fully our intent that the FAC be involved in the union negotiations. The council can't. We did have one exercise where Alderwoman Finlayson and I were involved in union negotiations. Interest-based bargaining was introduced at that point, and it was quite a successful negotiation, except that essentially Sheila and I were negotiating for the entire council without any input from them. So it is very awkward to have council members involved in it singularly. But the thought was that the FAC, now the real issue is how do you do it so that confidentiality is maintained. I quite frankly think the FAC members are perfectly capable of maintaining confidentiality, probably better than any elected official. So, but it is going to be complicated legislation, and it is, I think, has historically been met with resistance from every administration, not just this administration, starting out with Mayor Cohen. So it's a very complicated issue. Management argues that it is solely their province. I think the charter says that the council is ultimately responsible for matters financial, but you can see that this is much more complicated than negotiating a spending affordability function. So I have not forgotten it, Ed, and whether it'll happen in this term or not is probably dubious, and how it develops on the next council is quite frankly not under my control, because I will not be there.
Thank you for your thoughts, Alderman. Other comments, questions on the spending affordability ordinance? Okay. My suggestion is that we all take the next month to review this. I know you've gotten it late. It's pretty complicated. Review it and provide me in the next couple of weeks, if you would, with any suggestions you may have or questions you may have. And that way we can consolidate through one focal point and come back in the next meeting and discuss, review any comments and be prepared to make final suggestions to Alderman Arnett and whoever is working with the ordinance. Get it ready for introduction. Alderman Arnett, what I'd ask from you, where'd you go?
Right here.
All of a sudden, all the squares changed. If you would make sure that, we receive any further revisions that you and your legislative team make so that we're all commenting on the same thing.
Yeah, I had not by the way, Frank has his hand up, but I had not realized that the city attorney had not seen this, and I hope there's not a lot of changes, but I think we probably really ought to wait till we see what those comments are. And when I get them, I will make sure they come to you, just like Cynthia sent them to you via email yesterday. But I certainly don't want to introduce this until the fact is comfortable with what I'm doing to you.
Okay, I greatly appreciate that.
Frank is his hand.
So even though there may be changes as a result of city attorney review or Alderman Arnett further review or staff review, I would ask the fact members to provide me with any suggested changes or questions in the next couple weeks. And we'll put it on the agenda for next month.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me. Yes, Ross, thank you for your efforts on this. I think you did a great job. I just wanted to double check and make sure how many drafts have been presented. I have 2. I just want to make sure.
Those are the 2 that I received.
There are only 2.
I
Okay.
think that there were a couple, may have been 1 or 2 circulated internally that never got to me. So the
Okay.
one I sent to you all yesterday afternoon, shortly after I received it, is the most recent version.
And that's labeled as draft 3.2.
Correct.
Okay.
And if there are any further drafts, I will shoot them off to you promptly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anything we talked about today? Before we adjourn, I'd like to turn my attention for a second to Ms. Valiente. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. How was your first meeting?
Not bad. A lot to take in, but not bad.
Okay, and I don't think Kim is going anywhere. But if you have questions, I'm sure you can reach out to her. Again, Kim, thanks for all your help and look forward to you being a mentor to Ms. Valiente. So we have seamless continuation of the great staff support we've had.
Thank you all.
Patrick, did I see your hand up?
Yes, I got a quick question for Jody, I think. And maybe a little relevant, maybe not, but when I pay my water bill, I use the bill pay online through my bank. And if I'm paying a mortgage payment, they can get their money like the next day or 2. But apparently I was a day late getting the money to the city, and then I got another fine for being late. So my question is there any way the city can update their vendor or establish with the bank similar to like a mortgage company would do, so they could there's not a time lag between when they get their money?
So I'll tell you what my understanding is, and I believe it's a relationship between the bank and the vendor. And some vendors, they wire transfer things electronically very quickly, and others, they're actually mailing payments, and I don't know, it would be the bank deciding which vendors they can do that with. I will have to check to see if we are able to establish a more quick transfer of funds, but almost all of those bill pay checks come to us in envelopes. And they go, actually, they go up to our lockbox in Philadelphia. So it's a little bit of a trip when you do a check. There's also the option of paying online, electronically, directly debiting your account, which comes to us faster and more instantaneous. So that's almost automatic. If you use that function to debit your checking account directly. If you're going to use the bill pay option, it's going to be put in an envelope and go to Philadelphia. I don't think there's anything I can do to change that, but I will check.
Where's the,
Okay.
excuse me, Jody.
And you do know you have a once a year, we have a policy where we can waive your late fee once a year.
Yeah.
So,
I found out about that.
okay.
Well, just a little interjection on that one. Is there some way that the city could give credit as of the date submitted as opposed to the date received?
So we give credit up to the day it goes into the lockbox. We can't go based on a date. Are you talking about a date on the check or a date?
Online.
I'm not sure we have all that information available, like when somebody actually put the bill into the bank. I'm not sure we have that.
No. If I'm understanding Patrick correct, Patrick, you mailed it or you went online and paid it?
Yeah, I used online. I went through my bank. They have a bill pay function. And so I got all the vendors set up and just click there and they send the money. And what I'm saying is some vendors are set up where they can get their money like the next day, like Jody was saying. But for some reason, the city of Annapolis is not established that way.
Well,
Yeah, and I don't think that, I'm not sure that comes from our side. I think
no,
that's the banking
I
side.
agree. I understand better now. I apologize. Yeah, my background is banking, and that's what I was trying to determine. You initiated on the bank side, not on the city side. If you initiate it on the city side, I believe you get credit for it as of the date you submit it, not the date that it's received.
And bill pay is a bank function, and usually in the bill pay app, it allows you to see how long it's going to take before the bank releases the funds to the recipient that you designated. Usually in the bill pay, it's about a week.
Yeah, they can take 3 to 5 business days.
Yep. So I would count on anytime you hit a bill pay amount, count on that money not coming out of your account for about a week.
Yeah, the city system is not bad if you just want to initiate it from that side.
Yeah, if you want to do the direct debit, you go in and you program the direct debit to come out. You have to give us your, to set it up, we have to get your bank information. And that's something you have to submit directly to us. And then we input it to the system. And then when your bill is due, it comes out of your account. So it's kind of automated. So you have to be watching your account. It's not like you're dictating when it goes out. We grab it when it's due. So that's something you can set up if you want to.
Okay, anything else?
Well, if it's okay now, I apologize, but I can't resist. Why is the lockbox in Philadelphia?
So that we bank, our major banking function is with Wells Fargo, and they up until a few years ago, their lockbox was in Baltimore. But as you know, because there's so few people using checks anymore, they had to consolidate operations in order to, be more efficient with their budget. So they consolidated their lockbox in Philadelphia, and so now everything has to go up there, get collected, recorded, and then we get reports daily.
Okay, thank you.
I see Alderman Arnett's hand up.
I think he may have been waving goodbye, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think he was
I don't
indicating
see
he
him
had to
anymore.
leave.
It's
I have
9
him
o'clock, so he might have had
9:30.
another meeting.
It's 10. All right, not to belabor the point. Anybody else have anything? All right, good seeing you, and Jody. Nice seeing you, and maybe you'll pop back in once. You
I
like
may
the food.
pop in on the next meeting to introduce Brittany. to
Have
everybody and
a seamless
and
handoff, huh?
maybe sit through that meeting with her and then see if she has any follow-up questions.
Okay, great, great. All right, entertain a motion to adjourn. Frank Brown, second by, come on, somebody, give me a hand. Ed Meehan, all in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye. Or raising your right
Aye.
hand, opposed, we are gone. Listen until next month, and our next meeting is April 10th, 8 AM.
Everyone be safe and have a